So we continue on a series based roughly on the book from Will Willimon, Why I Am a United Methodist, a book I found about 35 years ago. I still have it in my library somewhere, not unpacked yet, but I also have it on my Kindle, which I was told this week, someone said they found it on the Kindle and they're reading it, and I think that's great. I'm going to say I've got a few other easy-to-read Methodist books that I'm referring to somewhat on this. And if it's something you ever think you want to read, after the series is over, you are more than welcome to borrow them from me. I have, if I want the book back, on the inside it's stamped with my name. It's from my library, but if I don't want it back, take it and do with it what you want. Any book that I have, because I'm trying to reduce my library by reading some of the books and saying, okay, I don't need this anymore. So we're getting there. But anyway, roughly based, so Will Willimon started on in the first week, we talked about grace, and that, you know, all churches have grace to some degree, but we focus a lot on prevenient, justifying, sanctifying. That justification is only a small part of it. We got a whole lot more going on. And then last week we talked about interpretation of the Bible and how we use experience, tradition, and reason to do so. Today we kind of take a shift. United Methodists are people who serve. And you have to understand that from the very early days of Methodism, in the 1700s, John Wesley thought it was very important for people to go out and serve their community. Not just serve them. I took, when I was reading this week, what I took note of was John Wesley went and talked to the people who needed help. And he asked them what they needed. You see, so often, especially if you're a middle class Christian in the United States, you think you have all the answers. And we can go out and tell them what to do. If they just follow what we tell them, and we don't listen to what they say they need. I was reminded in the late 90s, before moving to Oklahoma, I went on a mission trip to Redbird Mission in Kentucky. Don't know if any of you have ever heard of it or Henderson Settlement, but it's in Appalachia. It's a United Methodist mission. And they've got a school there, they've got the clinic, but they also go out and help the people in the mountains there with their homes. And we had a little team. There were about 3 or 4 men on the team. We called them the grumpier old men. They went out and they replaced the back porch with a nice deck, something that they could actually stand on because the house needed it. And that left a group of probably 5 or 6 ladies who went into the kitchen, and we did some repair work. You know, there was a hole about like this in the middle of the kitchen floor that put down plywood, and we repaired holes that rats could come in. But then we painted, and the kitchen got a really nice robin egg blue color. I spent 4 days kind of doing this because I was tall enough to use the roller and reach the ceiling. So we painted it all. And that really didn't take that long. And so we finished with the kitchen and we moved into the living room. And in the living room we painted, we repaired drywall first. I learned how to repair drywall. I can do that if I have to. But then we started painting, and we opened the paint color, and we're like, oh my. And we rolled a little bit on. It was literally Pepto-Bismol pink. We went to the lady of the house. Are you sure this is what you want? Oh yeah, it's exactly what I want. And then she went into another room, and she came out Remember back in the 90s, everybody had the wallpaper border around the ceiling? She had went to a store and got marked way down, wallpaper border that she liked. I'll be darned if that Pepto-Bismol pink wasn't a perfect match for that wallpaper border. She knew what she was doing. She knew what she wanted. And actually, once we got it all painted, it didn't look that bad. Not what I would pick, but I'm not living there. It's what she wanted. You know what a difference it makes when you listen to what they want? Because she was willing to tell us what she needed, what she wanted. And it wasn't a group of middle-class people going up and telling her what she needed. Because after all, to be honest, that house was never going to sell for a great amount of money. It literally was a shack. I remember as we painted in the living room, there was a flat ceiling, supposedly, and the door jamb, and it looked something like that. So, not well built, but it's what they had. And she told us what she needed. Sometimes that makes all the difference in the world. It gives them agency. It helps them improve their own lives. And that's what we need to do. John Wesley knew that. Go talk to them. Learn what they need. Listen to them. Now, that doesn't mean we're always going to be able to accomplish what they need. Sometimes we can't. We don't have the means. But sometimes we can. And sometimes it's far easier than what we would come up with on our own. I think Jesus would be happy with that. You know, Jesus went out to all sorts of people. Sometimes he healed people. But you notice, like the man at the pool of Siloam, he looked at the man and said, "Do you want to be healed?" Now, I don't know about you. I look at that and say, of course he did. But we should never assume. He asked the man, "Do you want to be healed?" And it was only when the man responded, "Yes," that Jesus healed him, and he got up and walked. It's something I think we all need to learn. Jesus did it quite well, and he welcomed people in, no matter where they were at in society. The woman who nobody was around, she was at the well in the middle of the day, avoiding people. Jesus was there, talking to her, respecting her. The lepers, Jesus healed them, yes, but he was there, talking to them. To the tax collector who nobody wanted anything to do with, Jesus was there, calling him, talking to him, welcoming him. Sometimes that takes on our part a little bit of humility, because we can easily get caught up in what works for me should work for everyone. You know, I was in McAllister, and there was a little lady there, Mabel Sherman. She was probably 90 pounds soaking wet. And I remember talking with Mabel Sherman, and she couldn't understand why the church there had two different services. They had an early morning, more contemporary, informal service, and they had a later in the morning traditional service. And she was like, "I don't know why they have to do that. What we had was good enough for me and good enough for my kids. It should be good enough for them too." She had all the answers. Except it's not good enough for everyone. And sometimes it's hard to balance it all. What I do know is every one of us wants our own heart music. I know this month we're singing traditional hymns, And for many of you, that is your heart music, and that's great. But for others, there's other songs that become their heart music. How do we reach them? You're not going to change their heart music. Last week we sang, How Great Thou Art. Written in 1954. That's heart music for a lot of you. I have to tell you, it's not I love the hymn, don't get me wrong. It's not my favorite one in the hymnal. My favorite one is the Hymn of Promise, written in 1980. And that one speaks to my heart. For our younger kids, there's probably not many in the hymnal that will actually speak to them, because the hymnal's like 40 years old, and anything in there is older than that. How do we reach them? Well, it's probably not going to be through the music, because other people do it better. But if we stop and talk to them, if we listen to what they need, what they want, what speaks to their hearts, then we can reach them too. It doesn't start with saying, you come to my church when I specify, and sing the songs I want you to sing, and have the kind of service I want you to have. It starts with listening. What's going to speak to them? What are their needs? What speaks to their heart? Where are they? Because when you stop to listen, you're going to be a whole lot more closer to walking humbly with your God. You see, God knows these things already. We don't. We have to keep learning over and over. But God knows what they need. He knows what will speak to their heart. We just have to stop and listen. And when we stop and listen, it'll be amazing what happens. You know, I've already had one conversation that has kind of inspired thoughts. You know, I know that we have the music ministry here, but as I was told, that's pretty much for kids who can afford instruments. They're already in band. Because the person speaking said, "But we can't afford to buy their instruments," and you're probably right, we can't. But one thing I learned in Beaver is there are all sorts of grants out there. And if we start looking for grants, we might find a way to do so. And wouldn't it be great if we could expand that ministry beyond the kids who can afford it? I think it's possible. I think it's going to take a lot of prayer. I think it's going to take a lot of wisdom and maybe even some downright luck or God's intervention. But I think it's possible. Too often, we get caught up in thinking about what we ourselves can do. Cases of water, doable. We can do that. What requires God to help us? What makes it possible for us to do far more than this number of people should be able to do? Only God can do that. And God will provide the way if we're willing to talk about it, listen, and look for alternative ways. Just because it happens out of this church does not mean all the money has to come from here. We can make it happen. We can be the driving force. We can be the organizing force. What are the other things this community needs that maybe we can make a difference? Because the one thing I know is if we're so worried about maintaining this building, other people aren't going to care. But if we go beyond these walls and make a difference in the community so people don't want you to go away because you're making a real positive impact on the community, people are going to want it to stay. And isn't that what we want, to make a difference for Jesus Christ? The mission of the United Methodist Church is supposed to be to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world, not for the transformation of this church. We want to change the world for God. And I think we can do it. I believe wholeheartedly, with God's help, we can do it all. It starts with listening. First, listen to God. What's God speaking to your hearts? Listen to the people who you think need the help. What do they say they need? And then let's look for ways that maybe we can help accomplish it. Because I think we can. Our God is a great God. Our God is wanting to do great things through you. And if we listen, God will. Thanks be to God. Amen.